Okay, hi everyone. I'm actually wearing two hats here. One hat is that of a co-author. I'm writing a book with a guy called Frank McCourt about how we badly, desperately need to fix a broken internet. And my other hat is one that you guys are probably more familiar with, and that is as the Chief Content Officer at CoinDesk. I'm going to start with that hat on, the second one, because I'm going to tell you about the year that we have had at CoinDesk. It's been quite a ride. So basically, last Thursday, a certain person whose name I really just don't want to mention anymore was convicted of 7 charges of fraud. And on that day, it was in fact the 1-year anniversary of the story that Ian Allison, my colleague, produced about the Alameda balance sheet, which led to the unraveling of FTX and a wild year for CoinDesk. And then we have Sam Bankman-Fried, I'm sorry, I did have to mention Voldemort's name eventually, found guilty, 7 counts. So it's been a great, on that level, fantastic year for CoinDesk. 3 awards we won from this. Last month we got the Loeb Award, right? That is the Pulitzer of business journalism. This is actually the proudest moment of my journalism career. I've never been involved in a story that has had so much impact. But it's also been a difficult year, a very difficult year from a commercial perspective, because the collapsing of the FTX empire was obviously commensurate with crypto winter, and a brutal one. And marketing budgets got slashed, and sponsors no longer wanted to come to consensus because our US audience was no longer accessible because there'd been a regulatory backlash against America and crypto. So CoinDesk has really had a difficult time. We've had, this is public knowledge, we've had 2 rounds of layoffs. And the company is going through a very protracted deal process. I can't talk much more about that other than to say that it looks quite likely that finally this deal will go through. But all of that has added massive amounts of uncertainty to what we do. But I'm also going to say that, CoinDesk is not alone as a high-quality, high-integrity news organization that is struggling these days to pay for itself. Digital media is stuck in a game of whack-a-mole. We spend our time trying to keep up through search engine optimization, attention farming through social media, and all of this is in the service of an algorithm. It's a game of whack-a-mole. We're just like, the rules change, trying to figure out what the audience's latest search terms are, what's moving, what isn't. This is really no way to do journalism. How do you focus on what the story of the day is? It's meant that as a media organization, we are no longer serving just 2 masters, but 3. Previously, it was our audience. Obviously, primarily, we care about our readers and our viewers if you're a TV operation. But we do have to service the ad guys. We've got to make sure that there's commercial operations that help to fund things. But really, we're also serving this third thing, this algorithm for Twitter, for Facebook, for Google, whichever it is of the intermediate platforms that's sitting between us and our audience. And I've chosen a black image because, of course, as we all know, those algorithms are black boxes. We do not know how they are structured. This has become a major problem. I would argue that it is an existential threat in reality to quality journalism. And I would go so far as to say that that in itself means that this is an existential threat to democracy. I first sort of realized how serious this was when BuzzFeed came out with a story in 2016, in the middle of the US elections. There was a team of Macedonian teenagers, and they had a website, and they were just running stories like this one. Government of Kenya has released Obama's authentic birth certificate. They also had a story saying that Pope Francis had endorsed Donald Trump. They were then landing the links to those stories into a Facebook group of clearly conservative people for whom this was an exciting story to read, and driving an enormous amount of engagement around that. All of them clicking on the site, and they were making good money from programmatic ads that they were running on the site. All of this was really connected, obviously, to the way that Facebook's algorithm helps to sort of curate attention to make sure that people are engaged, that they're getting likes, and all of that feedback loop that they like to build to get everybody engaged and sort of keep their own advertisers happy. But what I realized is that, oh my God, and I had just left the Wall Street Journal at the time, and we had layers of editors above the journalist and the editor and the sub-editor and the editor-in-chief. We had lawyers. We had a whole machinery of people. We sent people off into war zones at high risk, all so that we could get the facts straight. It was the infrastructure that we built as a news organization to make sure that the truth was something that we could try our hardest to maintain. And we were being beaten at this game by a bunch of guys who were just making shit up at no cost to themselves. I just think this is an incredibly stark problem. So this algorithmic concept that we're grappling with here, it's part code, right? You guys most of you are developers, you know the ins and outs of code, but it's part human biology, right? Because what that curation algorithm is constantly learning for itself is what exactly it is that triggers our adrenal glands to release dopamine, right? You get a hit when we get a like, get a follow, get a new friend, whatever it is. All that is an algorithm tapping into our brains, working with our adrenaline gland to keep us involved. Part human, part machine. There's a woman called Anna Lemke, who is a psychiatrist who has spent most of her career studying the impact of, or the role rather, of dopamine in drug addiction. And she says that social media is a bigger, more addictive drug than heroin. She refers to the iPhones in our pockets as those digital hypodermic needles. The impact of this is profound. Since 2007, when the iPhone was first released, suicide rates for the age of people from the age of 10 to 24 has risen 62%. Teenage girls reported last year that, or 30% of them, that they had seriously considered suicide. More than 50% of that same cohort, teenage high school girls, say that they have persistent feelings of sadness and depression. This is a system. The cyberbullying, the body shaming, this is what the algorithm is producing. It's also, as by the way, the two of us didn't actually realize that we were having the same event here. Chris's speech did a lot of stuff that I was talking about, this polarization that you'll see. But ultimately, our political system is trapped by this. So, if you're a politician, you're a brand. And you've got to play to social media. That's how you get attention. That's how you get votes. So we get, AOC with 13.2 million followers, and she's obviously a fairly hard, uncompromising, progressive left person. And then you get nut jobs like, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, is a QAnon believer, and she has 2.8 million followers, which is pretty good because she was actually banned from Twitter for 2 years, right? So, and here's poor old Mitt Romney, ran for president, was the governor of a state, was a mayor, has a huge, long history of politics, and is one of the very few middle-of-the-road, compromising Republicans in Congress, and he's only got 1.9, less than Marjorie Taylor Greene. So the system is driving us into these polarized differences. This system, we badly need to fix this thing, guys. But you know what? It's been incredibly profitable for the companies, the platforms that drive it. So if you include NVIDIA, which I think is relevant since they sort of pretty much drive the chips drive a lot of the LLMs that are part of this issue right now, the market cap of these companies adds up to more than $10 trillion. Right? That is, in GDP terms, the third biggest country in the world. The profit, of course, also is reflected in their sort of monopolistic practices. So Google, as we know, right, it is on 75% of all the world's smartphones. Apple, of course, being the other one, and is really probably no coincidence that they both charge exactly the same 30% fee for developers to develop on those, right? Google and Facebook have more than 50% of all of the world's digital advertising. Just think about that. Google, of course, controls search. Google dominates navigation. Google is in home management systems, our smart homes. It leads on video streaming, right? It is everywhere. This is, I mean, the robber barons at the turn of the century had nothing on what these guys have. And think about Amazon, right? Amazon is both the dominant e-commerce platform, it also, controls our web hosting, and it's a retailer in its own right. So imagine if you're a pizza joint, and there are two pizza joints in town, and you're the one that doesn't have a telephone. Those guys have got the telephone, and you have to rely on them to take your orders for you. And there's no record of when the orders come through, right? Can you trust that the same pizza joint is not going to fill their own orders for yours? Right? This is literally a broken system of commerce. So look, we've got to fix this, but what is the problem, right? One of the biggest problems is that we just don't have much awareness. So the book that Frank and I are writing is inspired by this one, Common Sense. This was written by Thomas Paine. It was under a pseudonym at the time, or an anonymous publication. And it basically was the most influential book in history. Came out 1776, let people know that there was something that they had to see and could no longer unsee, which was the broken state of the British monarchy and what it meant for the American colonists. Of course, we had the revolution after that, the Declaration of Independence, and so forth. We need people everywhere to understand that this is a huge issue, that the data that these machines control, that their right to that is a human right, just as these guys back then were talking about the Enlightenment. And we're at a crossroads now, because we could, if we change the system, we give people control over their data, control over their lives, decentralize the structure of the web, the kind of economy that we could create out of this, the open data for medical research, the incredible new business models that will emerge out of that. We have a huge opportunity ahead of us. But as Chris was saying, we also have AI coming. And if this is where things are going to go, with the same Web 2 companies controlling that data, then God help us, right? So what can you guys do? Well, I think people who are working on open web systems can do more than anybody. A lot of you are working on the infrastructure, and that's really important. The underlying fixes are very complicated games of building bridges and making sure all this stuff works and it's secure. But we need people to be involved in this. We need people to build the killer app that allows people to understand that there is an alternative to the network effect drug that they have on Facebook or Twitter or wherever. We've got to change the way people think. So build something beautiful and attractive. And look, come and look up the Project Liberty, which is what Frank McCourt's organization is all about. It's an open system. It's a not-for-profit arrangement. It's all about open source software. They are inviting people to come and build on that. So please get involved. We need to change this. We need a revolution. So let's go and start one. All right. So hit me up, and I can talk to you more about it.